This is iFanboy Pick of the Week 889, brought to you by iFanboy listeners just like you. My name is Connor Kilpatrick, and this is my co-host Josh Flanagan.
Hi there.
And joining us in the third chair this week is Dr. Ryan Haupt.
Hello, thanks for having me.
And this is Pick of the Week, episode 889. And we are iFanboy, and every week one of us picks the book they like the best out of the stack of comics they read. We call that the Pick of the Week. We talk about that book, other books from the week, the patron picks, some listener mail if we have time, and as always, your spoiler warning is in effect for the show. Ryan, you had to pick in a week in which a miracle happened. There were 2 comic books drawn by Brian Hitch.
Yeah, what a strange Brian Hitchessance that we're going through, but I'm not mad at it because one of the books that he drew was the pick of the week, which is Superman: The Last Days of Lex Luthor, Book 1, which is a Black Label book, or aka Elseworlds, written by Mark Waid, pencils by Brian Hitch, inks by Kevin Nolan, and colors by David Barron, letters by Richard Starkings and Tyler Smith.
I think that Nolan part was the big draw here for me.
Yeah, I didn't actually realize that, but it explains a lot, I think.
Yeah.
Ink talk. Yep.
Go ahead, Ryan.
No, I thought this was a really fun Superman story. I think this is sort of inverse All-Star Superman, right?
Kinda. We don't know enough yet, but kinda. Yeah.
So, if you remember All-Star Superman, the story was that Superman cells were overcharged with solar radiation. He was dying, and he sort of worked with... There's like this theory. What was the name of the scientist he worked with in that story?
Oh, Ryan. Come on.
Yeah, come
But you know what I'm talking about. There was like a scientist in that story that he worked with who helped, and there's like a theory that scientist was like Lex Luthor or time traveling or whatever.
I can feel my brain hardening with every passing day.
If you put that book in front of me right now, I could read it again for the first time.
It's
like what you said was true.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, that sounds right, but I couldn't tell you the name of the doctor.
Yes.
No.
Well, but there's a theory that doctor was Lex Luthor, so like Superman was working with Lex to save himself.
I don't cotton any of those theories.
Okay,
I'm just letting you know. Those are all internet theories of people who have too much time on their hands.
As we were discussing before we started recording, gravity, just a theory. So a theory that Superman defies regularly. This story is sort of the inverse of that, where Lex Luthor, in experimenting with some kryptonite, douses himself in sort of a chemical radiation bath that is now killing him in a way that none of his smarts can figure out a way to reverse. So similar to the main Superman book, Lex Luthor comes to Superman for aid, knowing that Superman will say yes to helping him, even though they're the greatest enemies that each other has. And it has a lot of flashbacks to Smallville, and this is a version of Smallville where Lex was living in Smallville for a time, and Clark was kind of his only friend, and Clark already had pretty significant levels of power and was really trying to help Lex not be such a dick, and failing. And it just sort of sets up this story where it's up to Superman to save Lex. And should he do it? Maybe not, but he's going to, because that's the Superman we all know and love. And it ends on sort of a interesting note of Clark blaming himself for the fire in Lex's lab, which is like, I know it's part of certain Silver Age-y origin stories for the Lex and Clark dynamic.
It is part of the Silver Age origin story.
Yes, but
and if Mark Waid so decides,
right,
then he can make the call on all of this. If you're like, did this really happen in canon? And Mark Waid goes, yes, then so be it. I think he has that. He's earned that.
So yeah, I just I thought this was really good Hitch art. The inks by Kevin Nolan did not hurt at all, and I am enjoying watching Mark Waid just sort of. It felt like I was reading a tale from that All-Star Superman vibe, where like Mark Waid and Grant Morrison were two of the architects of this plan for Superman coming into the new millennia that didn't quite come to fruition. But I think that now they're both in their own way getting to tell those stories, and this felt like part of that ideal of what Superman could be as envisioned by these creators, and I dug the hell out of it.
Yeah, this is super fun. Look at page 11 on your digital reader. That's a Kevin Nolan Superman face, not a Brian Hitch face.
It absolutely is.
Some inkers are heavier than others. Some inkers put more of their style into the work than others, and Kevin Nolan has always been someone who puts his style, which I really love, into the art. And I thought, as you said, Ryan, complemented Hitch really well. I mean, sometimes it's very Hitchy, sometimes it's very Nolan-y, but it actually really worked.
It's the best Hitch I've seen in a really long time. And as I look through it, it definitely has, some hitch of old. I'm trying to remember. I have it downstairs. There is a tabloid
Yes.
Superman
Yes,
Mark
there
Waid
is.
Bryan Hitch thing that's I don't know. I want to say there's a Alex Ross cover on the front with Clark Kent, but either way, they did a thing a long time ago, and this was like right after. This is when they were both big deals. I just love the idea that right now, I feel like Mark Waid is just
He's unleashed.
He is unleashed. And he's also like he's unloading years of pent up Superman and Batman stories. Like all those years that like Dan Didio didn't want him to do it. Like he didn't just go, oh shucks. Like just built up with him like a geyser.
He has a safe somewhere, and you open it up, and it's like the Ark of the Covenant, but it's scripts.
I just see like he sits at his desk and he puts his hands on the keyboard and he just tilts his head back and opens his mouth. It's like, oh, and it just slam, 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 slam. And someone's like, give me Bryan Hitch. And he's like, what? Give me Bryan Hitch. Put Kevin Nolan on him. And it was like, okay, and we'll get Alex David Barron. Okay. And like it comes out and like, this is really great. Because I read this and it felt right. It just felt good. I don't know that I would have made it my pick of the week, but I could have. I do have two very patented little Josh nitpicky things. I was looking at like the Superman that they chose. The Superman body style is like so. Like I don't know that I'd go for it, but it works here. It's got a giant torso. It's not that he's super bulky. It's like a huge torso. And there's a page where he's flying. Superman is flying Lex, page 29. And like, they both have tiny little feet. They have little short feet that look like hooves. Whatever. That's nothing.
Clark's never going to be able to find shirts.
No, it's a problem. He's got a real torso issue. The other thing is, and this got me a little, is I just looked up. I was like, does Bryan Hitch wear glasses? Because the first two pages is Clark. And he's alone by himself in the Daily Planet, and he's got his glasses on working on the computer. Now, he definitely doesn't need to do that, and B, that would be super annoying. There's just all sorts of reasons that doesn't work. And then the next page, he takes the glasses off and wipes his eyes, and I was like, why is he doing that? He doesn't get eye strain. That's a thing I'm going to say. Superman doesn't get eye strain. Does he get tired? I don't know. Does he have? I don't know. I looked at it. I was like, wait, why is he doing that? I guess it humanizes him. But I thought, well, maybe Bryan Hitch doesn't wear glasses and he doesn't understand. But he does.
Well, he'd have to keep the glasses on so anybody could walk in and see what's Superman doing here. Oh no, it's Clark.
I see what we've done. Because like I don't need my glasses to see like right in front of me, especially as you get older.
You're not wearing them as a disguise.
I am too. Do you know how perfectly they cover the aged bags under my eyes?
Oh boy! Ryan. This was probably my pick. Also, this was really fun. It had that old school DC vibe to it. I liked the Lex characterization a lot. He was a little bit of an asshole. He wasn't a total asshole. We often talk about, when they take a villain, they make him a hero, and he's not that here. But I do kind of like Lex and Clark having a long history going back to their childhood together.
And I really liked the way that they characterized Lex in Smallville as a guy who, the way that they make him volatile, I thought actually humanized him more, because it's like he's a genius, but he's a genius at the level where he's just constantly frustrated by everyone else not being a genius around him.
There was a great line about how he's so intelligent that he had no room for understanding people at all.
The kind of mind that comes along once every 100 years, so full of information that it simply had no room for emotional intelligence.
And I thought that is brilliant. I mean, Mark Waid's brilliant. Mark Waid is almost more emotional intelligence than anything else, and that's what makes him irritable with people, from what I understand. But what a great line, and how it just applies to all of these people who like we know as billionaires, who we revere, and then, also this is Lex at the beginning, and then you see what sort of happens to him. But I also, like at the beginning, like he attacks this city. I don't know if he actually hurt anybody, but he could have, and he took the gamble that Superman would end up saving everybody anyway. It's evil. Like he's terrorizing people at the very least. The twist on the Phantom Zone, I thought was really wonderful and new. Like I was like, I haven't seen this. I haven't seen this idea that they can focus so hard that they can make them, and then they kicked him out of the Phantom Zone because they didn't like him.
You're out. There was something else I hadn't seen before also, which was one of two scenes in Smallville I loved. One was where he was just sitting on the bed watching a movie at the drive-in from his living room, from his
That was
bedroom.
great.
I was like,
Yeah.
oh shit,
Oh.
I've never seen that before.
I don't think I got what that was, but that's awesome.
And
Okay.
I can
Well,
really see it being played like cinematically, like where he's lonely. He doesn't have his friends or a date to go to the drive-in, so he's just watching it from his bedroom. I thought that was a really brilliant scene. And then the next scene, the next morning with Mom and Pa Kent, and Clark is watching Lex build something, and he's like, Lex is up to something. And Pa's like, just go eat your breakfast, stay out of it, and leaves. And Mom's like, what kind of something? And I like that.
Mhm.
I like the different personalities of his parents, where she's like, she recognizes that something's going on. Where Pa's just like, just don't spy on your friends.
Let me ask you
was
this.
Yeah.
You take a big ass telescope up into the atmosphere. That can't be good for the telescope. I feel like the glass is going to crack something.
Well, I mean, Hubble, James Webb, they're all up
I know, but this is a poor country boy.
I did
Maybe
have
he's
that.
grinding his own glass.
No, I did actually have that thought too, Josh.
Yeah. I mean, it was delightful.
But,
really,
but Josh, he also doesn't need the telescope.
excellent
No, he's just
point.
holding it.
It's fine if it's broken. Like, he can still see everything. he
Actually,
needs to see.
all of his, I'm like, your sneakers, at the very least, your sneakers would crumble when you got back down.
Melt as you go through the atmosphere. Yeah.
Yeah, that too. I didn't even thought of that. I just thought they'd freeze and you'd come back and the elastomers.
Well,
would just break
it
down.
depends on which version of Superman you're talking about, because there's the version where he has this was I think it was the John Byrne version, where he has a little force field around his body
Bioorganic aura or
Oh.
whatever.
that protects his clothes from friction and all that
I
stuff.
feel like Mark Waid would say, no, we're not doing that.
I would say also it ruins the magic of comics, but that was at one point they said he had a little friction force field around his body.
And also, like, I want to make this clear. All of those things that I just nitpicked, they do not. I actually don't think they're problems. I think they're great. I like that they're things that we can pick out and say, I don't want them to stop doing it. I definitely don't want them to explain it. That's the fun part. Like, oh, look, they want us to believe. They want us to disbelieve here. Great. Like, I'm happy about it. So if you're listening to this, oh, he nitpicks all this. No, I love it. I want that to be clear. I like the fact that I'm like, why is he rubbing his eyes? Like, who gives a shit?
Well, another thing I loved about the portrayal of Superman, in particular in this book, is when they go to Kandor, which you haven't mentioned. He takes Lex to Kandor to see if the Kryptonian science there can help him. And I love that, Clark or Cal or whatever he goes by in Kandor, like he changes his whole demeanor and dialogue in and around the citizens of Kandor. Like he's saying, bye Rao and all these
he
other
gets more Kryptonian.
He's code switching.
But it's cool. It was good. Like he did code switch in a way that was noticeable, but like still felt authentic to the character. It was awesome.
I really liked that, and he's actually open with Lex in a way that, I mean, that's part of this story, is that he wants to be, because he knows that it's an intellect that can handle him. But I also like that, he went in there, to try to feel like a Kryptonian, but he can't, because he's still a man apart. Like, he doesn't fit in anywhere, which is a feeling that I think
he doesn't fit in everywhere. But because at least in his adult stage, he doesn't fit in everywhere. But everywhere he goes, people love him
because he's awesome.
That's gotta be like yes, but it's gotta be a bit of a mindfuck.
But not necessarily for himself. You know what I mean? It's for kind of, it is what he does, but what he represents, and for his power.
For his platform.
Well, which is what he stands for.
Respect for women.
Well, I thought that opening scene actually, where he's saving the city from, or the island city from the giant robot that Lex built. I actually really liked. That was the first time in a while where Mark Waid wrote about how, like, the people didn't feel fear, they didn't feel panic, they felt hope because they saw Superman. That was the first time where, like, the whole S stands for hope kind of actually worked for me.
Yeah,
it just washes over you like a cool stream. This when Mark Waid writes Superman, he just understands him at a level that other writers don't.
And that the drawings of the giant Lex Crab, whatever, green and purple, because he had that done, and the scale of it against the city, like, that's some authority Brian Hitch stuff, which is pretty wonderful. I liked that there was an explanation. I just complained that there doesn't need, but it was like, you didn't have time to build this. He's like, yeah, Koreans or whoever it was, like, I stole it, which needs must.
So I thought it was terrific. I like that, since we're living under this oppressive regime of Night Terror, DC is still putting out these Elseworlds side books that are still really enjoyable while we just wait patiently for this other thing to end.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been great. I think there's been like really solid DC books coming out every week that are taking place either in another continuity or somewhere else. And
True.
This has been good. Josh and I were talking before the show started about how this week a lot of books ended their run, including She-Hulk with issue 178 or 15, the final issue of this particular She-Hulk run, before it gets rebooted as the Sensational She-Hulk, also written by Rainbow Rowell.
And also drawn by Andre Genele.
Yep. But I thought as a final issue, this was good. And as a wrap up to the storyline with the Scoundrel, this was good. I enjoyed the Punch Club's jokes. I liked even the Jack of Hearts stuff, which I've not really been into in terms of the romance. I thought their scene was good together.
This was one of the first scenes with them that I thought, I was like, okay, I get their romance there, because I don't know that I did. I don't know that I always felt it was
I felt
earned.
the same way, Josh. I agree with you. I thought the Jack of Hearts stuff in this particular issue was stronger than it had been in some of the previous issues.
Mm-hmm. I do feel like, I don't know that you really should have added much more, but I felt like this may be an issue short. And I get it. It's 15 issues?
Yeah, 15.
There you go. Five and 5.
Didn't the last issue end with her punching him out of the ship? I just felt like there was a continuity error where I was like, how is he back inside?
It ended with her going through the wall, didn't it?
Maybe it's just the wall inside the ship.
Yeah.
Maybe so. It just I felt
good.
like I missed something going into this issue, and then I didn't realize until the end of it with the little essay at the back that this was the final issue. So I was along for the ride, but I felt a lot of my head was spinning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, Andre Genele has done the majority of these issues, right?
I think it was back and forth. There was an Italian guy on the first bit, because Genele was her partner on most of Runaways, or at least the majority of it. And I think there was a different artist on this off and on, but Genele, I think, kind of took over.
At least towards the end, at least the back half.
The last.
Terrific stuff. Good. Great character stuff. I mean, a lot of this stuff between Jennifer and the Scoundrel are just, it's just faces as they get to this tensed conversation about him blowing up Manhattan and him trying to continue to win her heart, even though she's clearly not into it. But then, there's big action stuff, and I love his thing. I love Rainbow Rowell's thing.
I love his thing.
I do love his thing.
I like that Luke wanted the jacket, even though he was trying not to. She just gets those things really right. And I think, what's interesting is that, like, I know that, Connor, you didn't read through that Runaways.
No, I didn't.
But this is what it was like.
Yeah, it was great.
It was just every week, it was like, oh, this is just delightful to spend time with these people. And a lot of it did have to do with how this artist, and now I forget who the other one was. It was the backup artist for Why the Last Man, I think, was the other artist for that Runaways book. I might be completely wrong. But it just complements her writing so much. I think that
Chris
Anka did do part of it, and then it switched over, I think, because you know what? I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm full of shit. I think if I was to, the last issue, if I was to not pay a lot of attention, I'd be like, boy, this Scoundrel character really flipped. But I don't think he did. I think she just built an idea about him in her head. Yes. Like built up a romance and an idealization that was based on absolutely nothing, which is the most human thing you can do. And then, like, very, very briefly, scratching beneath the surface, like, he's a complete prick. Like, there's nothing there, but it's grass is greener kind of thing.
It's grass is greener, but it's also...
Your She-Hulk is greener.
It's also like, she's not totally fulfilled with Jack, and so someone attractive comes along and flirts with her, and so she feels the attention she's not getting from Jack, and it's like the most human thing in the world, despite all the weirdos on the internet who get all angry about women having real feelings in superhero comics. But it totally made sense from that point of view. And what happens here is, or in the last issue, was reality slapping you in the face, right? So the fantasy ends and you're having to deal with the reality of the situation. Now this was a bit more heightened because it involves a bomb, but it was good.
Mm-hmm.
It's very good. I'm glad it's not ending, even if it's ending.
I mean, like I almost find myself annoyed that it's ending, even though it isn't. Goran Sudzaka. Okay, let me see if I was completely wrong if that person did any She-Hulk.
Goran Suzaka definitely did Why the Last Man.
Yes, I know.
I don't think they did any She-Hulk, though.
No, I think you're right.
Not She-Hulk, that's for sure. So things are a little out of order. All right, so let's talk about the Invincible Iron Man 658, which very helpfully told me this issue takes place after the Hellfire Gala because I almost read it before. So I stopped.
I did, and I don't care, but yes.
I stopped and went and waited. And then also the next book we're going to talk about also kind of takes place after this issue. So things were all screwy in Marvel land this week, but
I will say, if anything, it was something that actually made me slightly interested in the Hellfire Gala. I was like, okay, it didn't really spoil it for me, but I thought it sort of piqued my interest a little bit. It made me a little more receptive, I think.
So we're going to talk about the Hellfire Gala in a minute, but this is sideways post that same time. I've been loving Jerry Duggan's Iron Man.
It's really good.
I don't love, it's a trend across all these books is to take all the money away from all the billionaire characters and make them scrappy and poor. And it's like, that's not fun. That's not aspirational. And so, but here the situation is the guy who's been the X-Men villain has bought out his company and he actually owns all the rights to the Iron Man armor. And so he has to give it up and dealing with that. And while also the attack of the Hellfire Gala happened. So that's also happening. And he's got to rescue White Queen. And this was terrific.
The villain stuff here, though, it makes sense. Like, you see how he got outsmarted, and you also see that there's a couple of things. One, a lot of it was set up in that last miniseries or whatever it was, where him and Rhodey went around buying all the tech. He spent all of his money. It wasn't like he was duped or whatever. Like,
but that's the device to make him.
Yeah, no, I know, but also like I kind of. You kind of get the fact like he kind of doesn't care and he knows he can make back money instantly. It's not like a huge loss in that way. You know what I'm saying? Like with
he's not destitute.
He isn't. And he like, I feel like
it's not like he's Batman and his best friend stole all his money and they've never dealt with that.
But this is the thing, like if Tony Stark could slow down enough from doing all the other shit, he's like, I could make $1 billion. Who cares? Like it's not the thing. He's more dealing with the stuff that's going around it than the loss of money. So while I agree with you, I don't think it's that bad because it's very easy for them to write this, and it's just got like, he's lost the company before. The first Iron Man movie is about him losing the company. So
I like the Sentinels being infused with the Iron Man technology.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good twist.
I like
looking
that.
Like him.
That. Basically Iron Man is helping to take down the X-Men, even if he's not doing it himself, right? Like he's sort of responsible for that. And I think Jerry just writes a really fun Tony Stark. Mm-hmm. That's a little bit downy, but not totally downy, but a little bit, but still very recognizably Tony Stark from the comics. And I guess they're going to be pairing Tony and Emma. I guess that's what's happening, but. This was fun. I've been reading this alongside the X-Men book that he's also writing, and they've been great sort of companion books for a little while.
That's great.
And we're going to get to Hellfire Gala in a minute. But basically how this ends is he has to give up all his armor, so in the next issue he's wearing his stealth black and silver armor, which is what he's wearing in the Avengers 769, which I was very confused about. But after I read Iron Man, it made sense. So in Avengers 769, he is now no longer in the red and gold armor. Here's my complaint about this issue.
Yes.
And it's not the issue's fault. It's the modern way of comics is you only got 20 pages. They spent 8 of them introducing these characters in one-page intros, which I don't think they needed and took up a lot of real estate.
I noticed that, but I kind of...
Like by the time we got done with that, we were like halfway through the issue.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not wrong, but at the same time...
It's fun.
It was fun. I think that's what it was. This was one, and I think that there was a couple of these things this week. And actually, I think when we get into the next book, it's part of it too. But there was, Jerry Duggan's roughly our age. He would have come up in Marvel Comics about the same time and there's a lot of 80s Marvel in here.
In this Jed MacKay book?
Thing. Yeah, you're right. Jed MacKay. I can guess by reading his stuff that there's something going on there, but this just had that twinge of 80s Iron Man to it in sort of the structure and the way that it moved around, and it was really fun.
We're talking about which book we're talking about here.
Avengers?
769
Sorry.
or number
You
3.
You were saying it had a twinge of Iron Man. I thought we'd gotten back for a second. So
No, but both of them do, is my point.
yeah, we love Jed McKay, right? So he's got that right tone. This feels better than Jason Aaron for whatever reason. And, throw them a different threat every couple of issues and have them get together and solve it. That's what the Avengers are supposed to do.
I love that we had a bunch of new villains.
Yeah.
And they were like superhero villains. I mean, were they very different from like Ebony Maw and whatever? No, who gives a shit? Like
Right.
It was some aliens came down, stuff was real bad. The Avengers had to take care of it. And it was.
And we don't know yet because this issue is just the intro of the villains, and then all the Avengers split up to face a different one because they're all over the globe, and that's where the issue ends. We've put all the pieces on the board now, but in an incredibly fun way, and I like the dynamics of the team, the tension between Captain Marvel and Black Panther, who Black Panther is sort of instinctually tries to lead, and Captain Marvel is the leader. Vision is a great addition. He's an android. One of these villains is an android.
I like the little speech he gave that villain too. You have fed me to the core of my very being.
Thor looks like old classic Thor.
I think I skipped over a little bit on the last issue, but again on the Iron Man we were talking about. But I thought that the Juan Frigeri art was fantastic in this, and I thought, or in his book, and then the CF Villa art in this book was just great. It was perfect. It was dynamic. It was dramatic enough to be a little silly. Like you had the one character is his name. They all had ridiculous names. Like the villains were ridiculous. They were done full on serious, but the one is bored. He has ennui. He's like
Lord Ennui, my favorite one.
Yeah. I guess I'll try this. Maybe I'll feel something. And he's dressed just like one of the Nazgul.
Yeah, he has the Nazgul
with
helmet.
4 arms. It was very goofy. I had so much fun reading this, and I had to catch up on 2 and then 3 here. And I just thought, this is an Avengers comic. And it was like world spanning, but I was like, this is going to last 2 issues. Or could, and it would be fine.
For sure.
Like, here's a bunch of new villains. And I just thought, this doesn't actually happen a lot. We just get some sort of new villains coming along. And there was actually a letter in the back of this, and I don't ever read them, but I happened to read, and he was like, there's a guy and he's like, I've been reading comics for 50 years and this is the first letter I wrote in. And it was like all about how, he was really excited about all these new Avengers villains. I was like, really? 50 years? You read this one issue where they sort of introduced some villains and you just had to write I was like, I kind of don't believe this, but I also kind of love that it exists. He's like, it's like a paragraph. He's like, I was very pleased. The story, I love the lineup. I think basically he's like, I just loved seeing the new Avengers villains. This is my first, after 50 years of collecting comics, this is my first letter. I was like, really? Okay. I want to believe it.
It builds up in you.
I want to believe it. Well, the undercurrent of that, by the way, is always, I hated the last run. That's a classic.
Have either of you ever written a letter?
I wrote a letter to Wizard.
I never wrote a letter to a comic book. I wrote a letter to Cracked magazine when I was 10, and it got published.
Do you have that? Do you have that issue?
No, I was just thinking. I was like, I bet Connor's going to ask me. I couldn't even tell you when it was. No, I mean, I'm guessing it would have been sometime around 87.
No, I don't. I do not believe. No, I've never written a letter.
Hold on, I gotta look for that on eBay while we're talking.
Just buy all the issues from 1987.
Yeah, I gotta like go 86 to 88 just to be sure.
Why don't you read this next part, and then you can look it up.
Fine. If you want to find some way to help fund my desperate search for maybe collectible or perhaps non-collectible issues of Cracked magazine, because of course I liked Cracked more than Mad because it wasn't the mainstream thing. That's so me, even at age 8, 9, 10. Anyway, you can go to patreon.com/iFanboy. You can directly support the show. You can unlock shows for everybody. There's a great community over on Discord and Facebook and the monthly patron hangout. There is now tier exclusive merchandise. I tried to say merch. I couldn't do it. Merchandise. They changed things around a little on Patreon, and we had to change around with them. So depending on your level of support, after 3 months, you will get a Junior Jamoke t-shirt or tote bag or a hoodie. It depends. You make those choices, not us. There's a sticker, a mug, a poster, many things. Plus, at the $5 or higher level, you get a patron power and access to the Discord server. And at the $10 or higher level, you get access to an ad-free feed of this show. You can find out more details on patreon.com/iFanboy. I've never read that. That's the first time I've actually done it. Let's see. There's a shirt. There's a new shirt, the iFanboy Pride shirt. Half the proceeds of that shirt over at ifanboy.threadless.com go to the It Gets Better project. And what we found out is that they were already going there. We didn't even have to do it. We'd set that up. And when I say we, the minions, the people who do that kind of thing.
It's automatically routed.
So shirts that have been bought have already had money go to the It Gets Better project, which is something I think is very cool and very important and very valuable. And I'm glad that that's there. There are 13 total designs, which you can get on t-shirts and so many things. You can go to ifanboy.com/support. There's a direct PayPal link there. Should that be a thing that works out for you and you want to contribute in some way, ifanboy.com/Amazon, where you can buy the books that we talk about on Booksplode with a link there, or there's general links to Amazon. So you can, it's an affiliate program. I believe you understand how that works. And finally, bookshop.org, where we can put links on the site we do, because that is a way to order the comics from local bookstores. And if you go through it, you can order any books you want from local bookstores. And it's a network of local bookstores so that you're supporting that incredibly vital part of our culture, which goes underappreciated. I think that's enough for me.
There's a lot. I
have an update.
Go ahead.
Okay.
I remembered when Warren Ellis had his Bad Signal newsletter.
Yep.
Yes.
I replied once to one of his bad signals with an email that got me blocked.
Got you blocked.
Yeah.
Classic.
But also, writing an email and writing a letter.
I know. It's why it took me a minute to recall it. But
Josh, there are a lot
I was being a shitty, immature person, and I said I was saying things that weren't nice, and so he blocked me. It was he was correct.
You earned it.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, see, I was thinking that you said something like completely normal and got blocked, which was more my experience with Warren Ellis.
Nope. I was in the wrong. I've literally apologized to Warren Ellis in person since then, and thanked him for teaching me a valuable lesson about being mature on the internet.
What did you say?
I was something shitty about how your issue was late and I'm not going to buy it until the trade comes out. It was.
Why would you do that?
Because I was an idiot child.
Josh, there's a lot of issues are cracked on eBay.
Yeah, I realize that. None of them look familiar.
I'm not proud of it, but I did learn.
Uh-huh.
Ryan, talk to me about the Incredible Hulk number 783 or number 2. What's going on here?
Well, I actually kind of wanted to see if Josh was reading this.
Incredible Hulk? Yes. I always try new Hulk stuff.
Some kind of Hulk stuff you never tried before?
I found myself slightly disappointed that this felt a lot like the Al Ewing
yes.
horror Hulk as we kept going. And I didn't like that as much. But I really like Philip Kennedy Johnson. And isn't Nick Klein was the artist?
He was on Thor.
Yes. Oh, okay. You're right. I thought the art looked great. It's good, but it's not my cup of tea.
Hashtag not my Hulk.
No, I don't have a Hulk. I'll let them do anything with it. But
I'm excited for Philip Kennedy Johnson. I'm not excited about what he's actually doing. In theory, I'm like, ooh, I'm sure there's some interesting stories he's got, but this is not it. Although I do like the young girl he sort of meets and is his sidekick. And
well, and I'm kind of digging this. Connor and I talked about the first issue, and takes place in Eastern Kentucky, Appalachia, my neck of the woods, and it's got a lot of creepy Baptist revival stuff.
I honestly skipped almost all that dialogue.
I did too.
I was like, okay,
got through it.
You're going to preach for 3 pages. I'm just going to skip it.
I thought that was actually really weird for a guy who is such a vet. I thought this, because I skipped it and I was like, this has nothing to do with the plot. And it's a lot of real estate.
It worked for me, someone who grew up, being taken to church every week.
Did you hold snakes?
In Appalachia. Okay. How much time we got on the show?
Yes or no?
No.
Okay.
Tried to go to a snake handling church. Dad would not let me.
Okay.
That was like your nascent scientist coming out, like like kids who are like, they know they're gay but they're not sure. They're like, well, why don't we go to this thing? And you were like, let's go. Because how do we get close to the snakes?
I saw a snake yesterday, Josh. It was great.
I don't know. I didn't dislike this, but I'm not loving it.
Yeah, I'd say that was right.
At one point, she calls him like a skinny nerd, and I was like, this guy? Like, he doesn't look like a skinny nerd.
He looks like a terrifying vagrant.
He looks like he's a heroin addicted bass player.
Maybe it's because Justified came back recently that I'm in. Let's give me some creepy Appalachia stuff.
I will say that I kind of wish. I wish that like we could, like, every time we see Banner, he's even further along the road to ruin than he was. Like whatever happened before is still with him.
Right.
And so like now, like, he's not okay.
Right.
Like he like the Hulk is almost preferable to this wastrel. I kind of want them to reboot a little.
Oh, totally. I think it'd be nice to have a Banner who isn't just completely fraying at the edges.
Yeah.
And has a story, and is not just hiding from the Hulk.
Like the Banner on the movies that we all know.
Or the TV show, or any of the Banners we've seen over the years that's not, this continuing story of trying to fight off the Hulk inside, who is actively trying to kill Banner. It's like, that's been happening for a while now. Not as much fun. Over in Ultimate Invasion number 2 of 4, our other Brian Hitch book of the week, Jonathan Hickman and Hitch. I liked this, though I was confused at first because this is like taking place in an altered dimension. It's not the Ultimate version, but they all look like the Ultimate version, so I was confused for a minute. But
well, this you and I had a little bit of a debate with issue 1, Connor, where you kind of said they were going back to the Ultimate Universe, and I said no, I think they're going to a different universe, but it's the maker from the Ultimate Universe going into it. So I think our two theories are coming to a head here. I think we're seeing something that is running in parallel to what we knew as the Ultimate Universe.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because this is 2 of 4. And
it does not feel like enough issues to explore everything that they're trying to explore.
I feel like halfway through the story I should know a lot more, but I did enjoy it. Even the creepy... What's with all the body horror? What's going on?
It's a thing. Well, I mean, it's got something to do with the pandemic.
You didn't read this, did you, Josh?
No, I started to read the last one, and I found myself kind of interested, and then ended up not doing the show, so I never finished it. And I looked at it, I thought, do I want to finish it? And I thought, no. So I didn't.
There's a part where the ultimate Mr. Fantastic takes off his helmet and half his head's missing.
Ugh.
And I was just like, ugh.
So apparently you can buy DVDs of Cracked. Like for like $25, I could get like the whole run and find my thing in there.
Ooh.
But as I'm looking through these, some of the covers look familiar. But what I am noticing is that a lot of the art in these ones was John Severin, which is the first time I ever came into contact with him. And he's just so good then, and he was so good right up until the day he died.
I think you got to buy the DVD, find your issue, and then get the issue.
I think that's sort of where I'm leaning. I think I found somebody on Etsy who's selling like 300 of them as like a download. I thought that might work better.
As long as they've already got optical character recognition run on them, so you can search.
Yeah. Well, I just needed to. Yeah, that's true.
Little OCR action. I mean, you can run OCR yourself, but should you have to?
Some of these feel familiar because I was like, I remember reading this.
It's been a while. We've talked about Garth Ennis in the show. We're talking about the Ribbon Queen #1 from AWA, Garth Ennis and Jason Burrows. And
was I the only one who read this?
No, I read it.
Oh, okay.
Josh, did you read it?
No.
Oh.
Weird.
I didn't know about it until 10 minutes before the show. So
that's not true. I texted you earlier than that.
God, you are so bad at doing shows. Oh my God. Do you know what improv is?
Fire me.
It was an hour and a half before the show. Fine.
Takes 10 minutes to read a comic.
That's true. I downloaded it 10 minutes before the show and read it.
Well, I was making dinner and cleaning up. Connor has a lot more free time than I do.
This is, falls into that category of the Garth Ennis books that I'm not overly interested in.
Right.
This also falls into it reads like it's going to be a hard-boiled crime book until the last 2 pages when it becomes a supernatural thriller.
Right. The cover really kind of gives it away, but yeah, it's basically a crime. It's a cop story, which he's been doing a lot of, until the very, very end. But I really was taken aback by Jason Burrows, who I normally think is a really strong artist, but I thought was really
Stilted?
flat. And like,
Yeah.
there's one character who's the cop they think killed this woman, and they're looking at a video of him yelling at people, but his facial expression has none. There's just no facial expression while he's yelling, and it's just like the dialogue's not matching the art. It just was weird, unless that was a choice. But I thought, but then he's dead, so I guess it's not a choice. I don't know. It just was bizarre. I did not dislike it, and I thought there was some terrific Garth Ennis flourishes and character stuff, but we got to the end, and there's more body horror where the guy's getting his skin peeled off, and he's still
Did you read the
alive.
essay?
I did not read the essay.
The afterword?
No.
Yeah, I mean, he talks a little bit about why this story matters to him, which I guess is the entire point of the afterword essay thing. And yeah, there was like a whole thing about like Garth Ennis going on a hike as a younger man and getting chased by a bull and having to crawl through brush with thorns and getting his skin all cut up, and how that informed his sense of like gore. And I don't know. It was informative, but I don't know if it was necessarily convincing. If that makes sense.
Well, look, he's always had a variety of interests, and they don't always interact with what I'm interested in. But he's always been that way. It's fine. Nothing wrong with that. It's like Alan Moore. He's got his whole corner of stories he likes telling that I'm not interested in, which is okay.
Okay. But it's Snow White, right? And she's boning Cinderella.
Well, that one's
and
right.
Then
wait, am I supposed to say yes and right now?
Yes, this is exactly the right.
Yes and.
I'm the only one reading Traveling to Mars, right? Josh is definitely not.
Yeah, I missed the bus.
I same. I would like to catch up, but I have yet to have.
This is issue 7. I think it's 8 or 9 total. He is now at the precipice of reaching Mars, and this issue bummed me out really bad.
You okay?
We're living in this current hellscape, where literally hellscape, where everything's really, really hot, and it's like this is the new normal, and everything got really bad really fast. I mean, it got really slow, really bad, really slow for a long time. Then it got really bad, really fast. And in this issue, the guy who's on the spaceship going to Mars to claim it for a corporation, he's talking to his representative back home, and the guy's like, "So listen, it's not so good here. Society's kind of collapsing." And then we go through a bunch of Mark Russell futuristic predictions about the Earth, and I was like, "Oh, I can't be reading this week while I'm sitting here in 95-degree temperature." Like, it was not good for my mental health. But it's still terrific. It really is. I think Josh would. I think you guys both would really love it. But you can check it out later.
I plan to.
I'm not against it. I just forgot about it, and then it was 4 issues in. So that was the thing.
That's why I always subscribe to the issue.
Every time I screw something up, you give me a life lesson. This is an ADHD thing, by the way. You are making fun of my disability.
I am.
Yes, and
those are the books we wanted to talk about this week. But
God,
at Patreon,
you're ruining the yes and joke now.
Patreon.com/iFanboy. Every patron gets a vote to add a book to the rundown. And this week, in a squeaker, in the book that won by one vote over the pick of the week, Superman. The winner was X-Men Hellfire Gala 2023, number 1. And this is the annual Hellfire Gala, which I love as a concept. I think it's been super fun. They do a annual Met Gala style crazy thing, and something big always happens at it.
Why do you love it?
I just said why. It's super fun. And they do a crazy event happens. Oh, something big always happens at it.
You like if you like when the Met Gala happens, you like follow it, right?
No,
like you want to see the stuff and.
No, I watch stories about it in the news, but I don't go crazy. But I enjoy the artistry of the costumes.
Okay.
And this is always good. This is where they pick the new X-Men team, and something important always happens. And what is fun about it is they usually this one's very different than the past ones. We're going to get to why in a second, but there's always like fun interactions because they have characters from all over the Marvel universe come to the gala and with real celebrities. And last year was the one where Emma Frost started flirting with Steve Rogers and made him uncomfortable, and that was super hilarious. Like, stuff like that is fun because it's like a party, and they get to sort of take a breather for a minute.
I think it's a really great idea in the context of Marvel and specifically the X-Men.
Yes.
Because I don't know when it started, but I know that at least in the 80s, there was always an element of flair that would have, they have the swimsuit issues
Yep.
or whatever, and sort of the design of the costume, like it, and the idea of this, I think, meshes well. While I am not necessarily interested in it, I think it's a good idea. And I saw like at Comic-Con, like they had one, and I was like, oh, that's really smart.
Yes.
I wouldn't really want to be there, but I thought that's brilliant. And I bet the people who went had a lot of fun, and that's cool. So it was interesting to me that it came out this week, and I like I said, something happened in Iron Man. I was like, that's kind of interesting. And then our pal Ron Richards was like, you should read it, which is not surprising because he always says that. And I'm like, I've never liked X, but you should read it. It's really good, and I do, and it never is. But I did read it. And I found myself the whole way. I was like, this is the best X-Men comic I've read in years. Because even though I didn't really know who everybody was, what was going on, I had no problem following it.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was really impressive because a lot of times I feel like I am hung out to dry by these X-Men writers.
Well, it's Jerry Duggan was the writer, and there's a lot of artists because this is like an almost 70-something page issue. Adam Kubert and Chris Anka, we mentioned earlier, and R.B. Silva, Javier Pina, Russell Dowderman, Mateo Lally, lots of great artists. Pepe Larraz does the last bit. And so this is sort of the culmination of this Krakoa story, right? So many years ago, they broke off, they created Krakoa, they turned it into Fuck Island, they started making magical drugs for the world, and meanwhile, this Orcus group has been hating them and trying to kill them, and this is the culmination in that Orcus attacks the Gala and ends up killing 90% of the mutants.
Yeah.
And this also reintroduces Kamala Khan. Hey, she's back. Everyone put your pitchforks down. And a bunch of major characters die, quote unquote die. And without these facilities in Krakoa anymore, you can't resurrect Iceman. You can't resurrect Jean Grey. Cyclops is in pretty bad shape.
So I thought it was pretty interesting because at the beginning they resurrect Kamala, and I thought, Jesus, nobody can die at all anymore. And then totally flipped that on its head later, which I thought was cool.
Yeah, and I'm look, I've been reading not all of the X-Men books, but reading X-Men ever since the Krakoa situation. I've been reading the X-Men book. I read several of the series, so I know what's going on. But I'm also on the edge. Like in this book, there's so many X-Men characters. I just have no idea who they are. And so it was interesting how it turned it on its head for me, in that I was like, who are all of these people? And then they all get killed anyway, so it doesn't matter. And I'm always a proponent of
they
a
introduced
smaller...
a new X-Men lineup, and I was like, who are these people? And it didn't matter.
I was like, this is a lame team. I don't know if I want to keep reading the X-Men book. That's what I said when I saw it. I was like, oh, I don't think I'm going to keep reading that X-Men book. And then they all get killed. So I think the X-Men are better. Like, you can have a ton of X-Men, you can have a ton of mutants if you want, but I think it's better when it's a focused, you focus on like 20 X-Men. And so that's kind of what we're down to now, where the Orcus forces them all to walk through the gates, but they've turned the gates into space. I think everyone thought they were going to end up on a planet. Instead, I think it sounds like they just got spaced into space. And so now, like, almost everyone is dead except for the X-Men who were able to block the psychic commands because of the tricks Xavier taught them. And so we're left with a very small group of survivors, in a really bad situation. And I thought this was really good. Ryan? Thoughts?
Yeah, I enjoyed it more than I thought I would, but I did feel the length of it, I guess, is what I would say.
It's about 70 pages, because there's a whole bunch in the back of the story. But yeah, it's about 70 pages. And
you know what? I'll go ahead and throw this out there too. I like the outfits. That's fun. It's fun that they get these.
I was impressed by it.
Yeah,
I think, and it worked. It was actually a little bit where I almost hate to admit this, but Xavier took off his helmet for a second
to talk to Kamala,
and it was like, yeah, he's finally taking his cerebral.
Kamala, the vice president, has ruined my ability to say her name. It's You said Kamala. It's Kamala. But
Apologies.
I do the same thing. I read her as Kamala now.
Thank you for the correction.
But I was like, oh, so he's actually got a reason for wearing that dumb thing on his head. Just for a second, I thought. And like when Cyclops looked really stupid in his outfit, I was like, well, Gala outfits look stupid.
Yes.
That's what they do. And I get it. It's fine. It's supposed to be like that.
It's high fashion.
I mean,
yeah, somebody was high, Connor. Am I right?
I really didn't notice the changing of the art. I knew that there was a bunch of artists and I was kind of looking for it, but I felt that, I don't know, it was editing or the way the story was. Like I was going along with it. I felt the length, but not in a bad way. I was kind of like, oh, I'm enjoying an X-Men comic. I hope this doesn't end soon.
Well, once the ball started rolling downhill, I was like, oh shit. And then it got like really tense.
I thought it was a Gala.
Yeah.
And then like at the point where is it Xavier it's Jean Grey who makes Firestar into an undercover agent using her
brilliant
powers. And I was like, you could feel the desperation and the heartbreak because she now has to go undercover, and Jean Grey's made everyone think that she's a bad guy, and so now she's all alone because Jean's dead. And so it's like the Chuckles thing, or no, it's like the Departed, where your handler dies and no one knows you're not a bad guy. So like once it started moving, I was like, oh shit, this is terrific.
And Rogue went all indignant on him.
Yeah.
She's like, you better keep the light on. I was like, oh no, this is not like, I was totally into it. I probably would have made this my pick of the week.
Holy shit. That would have been
I know. I think
the pick heard around the world.
Well, it just in terms of like expectations being subverted. I think what you're talking about is that slow rollout of
yes. It was really well constructed.
Well, it's slow rollout of just like, oh, this is a thing that's going to matter that I would notice. Like if I didn't read this in this book, I would have felt it in all the other books. And it's sort of like it was time to wrap up Krakoa in some way. And this was a very good way of doing it. And I don't mean like it was over, but like it lost like what was interesting about it was just like this is just going to be a thing now. But then they flip it on its head at the last minute, and just unexpected and really compelling.
It's always fun when the villains show up, right, and they've got the upper hand in a way the heroes can't even fathom, right? You put them in a position where it's just like it's so bad and they don't even realize it. I like Kingpin in here. I'd mentioned before that he was on Krakoa because Typhoid Mary, his girlfriend, is a mutant, and he ends up becoming important. It just like I thought Jerry Duggan did a really, really good job of taking all these disparate elements. He had MODOK's in here.
But yes, but there was also a really cool thing,
and they unleashed Wolverine. I feel like Wolverine's been sidelined forever because there's two other Wolverines, and now Logan isn't really important. So it's like it feels like things were snapping back into place in a way that I really enjoyed.
Who was it that said somebody was like, "I'm not so comfortable"? I guess it was Sam Wilson. It was like, "I'm not so comfortable with Kingpin walking around here," and somebody's like, "Well, would you rather have him be here, surrounded by all these mutant heroes, or
right where there's no money?"
Yeah,
so he can't steal from us because we don't use currency to pay for anything.
I thought that was brilliant. I thought
it was good.
Really...
It was super clever.
And even he was like, "You make a lot of sense."
Even Sam Wilson was like, "Yeah, you make a lot of sense."
Yeah, that's cool.
It was a good issue. It was a really good issue.
It was surprising. Don't tell Ron I thought that.
He doesn't listen.
I know.
Yeah, so let's rate it. X-Men Hellfire Gala 2023 #1. Ratings out of 5. I'm going to give it a 4.5.
I'm going to give it a 4.5.
I think I'm just a 4.
That's okay.
That's totally okay.
Nothing wrong with it.
I mean, you thought you were going to get away with it, but instead you were forced to read a 70-something page comic at the last minute. And you can still give it a 4. It would be easy to just resent it.
It scratched a particular itch, but it.
I forget. Are you one of those X-Men cartoon kids?
A little. I was
one of those weirdos.
No. I'm just young enough that like I was on the tail end of the X-Men cartoon, but all in for the Spider-Man cartoon that followed.
Right, you're the Spider-Man cartoon kid. That's right.
Yeah, sorry.
That's fine. So there's a real question, Josh. Are you going to stick with any of these comics?
I don't think so.
Oh, not going to read the Jared Duggan written series.
I mean, I know what's going to happen.
Do you?
Like I kind of no. I mean, like this is the same thing that happens anytime I try to read an X-Men run. The last time I really stuck with an X-Men run was the Wolverine was the head of the Academy or whatever it was. I read
Listen,
that
I
all the
think
way
you can
through.
go out on your high note, right? Like you came in, you had
Yeah.
the perfect piece of cake.
Yep, that's exactly like I get it. Like I like the Fallout might be cool or whatever, and early like I tried to read the Marauders book and I just was like I don't care once it sort of gets down into the ticky tacky stuff. Whenever it ends, when like the big sort of final issue of all, I'll read that. When they escape from this, that's fine. Maybe if something's great, you tell me. I'll be on the show. You'll tell me, oh man, this has been really good. I think you'll still like it. Then sure.
Ryan?
No.
Ryan doesn't like us anymore. Ryan, why not? Tell the people.
I mean, it's a good question. I feel like I fell so far away.
Had you been reading any of these books before, or this was your first time back into X-Men?
It was my first time. I've sort of checked back in with some of the Jerry Duggan stuff, but I feel like Jerry Duggan is still carrying the torch that Jonathan Hickman lit, and I just never quite plugged into or loved any of that stuff. And so it's like, it's nothing against any of the creators working on it, and it's nothing against any of the stories being told. It's just I don't know, like there's something about the I'm reading a comic and then suddenly there's a stylized page with a white background and black text and weird circles, and it's all just text for a page. It's just like, it takes me out of it every time to a point where I kind of just don't want it in my stack. Like,
you know what? I think that's very valid. I definitely have had that thought. I also like that there's going to be some things in comics, and actually I have eroded a lot of these over time. I just don't want to have to worry about.
Mm-hmm.
And the X-Men is something like I don't want to have to worry about it. Like, I can check it out sometimes, it's fine, but really I don't want to feel like I have to keep up with it, and I don't. And so that's nice. That's a little like, okay, well, let somebody else worry about that. There's
my final question, before we move on, is: did you read the post-credit sequence? Because often, Josh, you'll stop when you see the.
By accident, I sort of saw it at the end, where this is when they get to the Hellfire Club basement, and then they find out they can't go through the.
Well, that's when Kitty X falls through the thing and ends up.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yes, I did.
Good. I'm glad you read it. I'm glad you all enjoyed it. Patreon.com/iFanboy. Every patron votes out of the book to the rundown. Thanks for voting this week, patrons. But if you give it the $5 or higher level, you get a superpower live on the show. And this week, the Doctor is going to bestow this power.
The power is going to Justin Ludwig. And Justin, don't even start with me, Josh, right now. Don't do it. I heard the scoff.
It wasn't. I chuckled. I thought it was delightful that you said Ludwig. And then I thought of things I could say. And then I was like, you shouldn't say any of those things. And then.
Yes, and.
No, Justin, I was going to go with that, like, yeah, this is Ludwig. And I thought, don't. But I just did it.
Justin can transfer any skill he has to someone else by touching them.
See, this is interesting.
It's a reverse of sync.
Reverse rogue situation.
Let me ask you this. Do you think Justin's got that many talents?
Well, here's the thing.
Can he decide that which talent goes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, he can. And here's where I think it's interesting. Because
you're okay at grilling.
No. The part of my brain that's broken, like, for example, if Connor came to me and said,
careful.
It said, I need to make a delicious stir fry by Friday, and I don't know what to do because I don't have time to figure out how to stir fry.
This is an insult, but go. Keep going.
Or I was going to say Josh play guitar, but I knew that would be a bigger insult. But I would bend over backwards to figure out how to stir fry in order to transfer that power to you in time because I would do it for my friend before I would do it for myself.
The question. If I don't know, Justin Ludwig, maybe he's a super genius, but let's just say he's an average person of science.
Yeah.
Could he transfer his average person of science brain into your brain, Ryan, and then thus making you an average person of science?
So you're saying he would hurt me?
Right. Can he do that? Can it diminish you with his transfer?
No, see, it's not my power, but I would think it would work that if you...
Can you override your science ability with his science ability?
Right. So that's not really transferring their... it's
Transferring.
Originally, I was thinking of it as like to transfer your talent.
It could be an
but say
upgrade. It could be only
if your
upgrade only.
talent isn't greater, then it just doesn't take effect because it doesn't add anything. But you're saying it overwrites it,
No,
like
I'm just asking
saving
the
an
question.
old
I'm just
copy.
asking questions.
I know.
don't
I know.
the answer.
I'm
Ryan, tell us
working
the
out.
answer.
I think Josh is correct. I think it
It's
has
only
to be
upgrade.
it has to be an improvement. Yeah, because this power to me is all about helping your friends, right? Like if
I like that a lot.
if Ron needs to learn calligraphy to write thank you
Oh
cards,
God, does he?
Justin would, like throw himself at a calligraphy course for a week to make sure that by the time he and Ron shook hands or high fived or fist bumped, that the calligraphy power would transfer.
Can we get that guy
and
over to
Ron would be
Josh,
great
too?
at calligraphy.
Again, apparently that's an ADHD thing.
Listen,
Henry's handwriting is horrid.
Lots of people have bad handwriting though.
we can ship him around.
I know.
I'm just saying, I feel like if I had this power,
Explain Ron to me.
I would
Scribble.
work harder at self-improvement for others than I do myself.
I understand. No, this is a very altruistic power, and I
I hope
appreciate it.
Justin is better
So
than I
what's
am.
interesting?
about that.
What's interesting here is that you said that you would bend over backwards to learn how to do stir fry. But if you're both starting from zero, you're not helping that person at all. Unless you had something that you could give them.
No, if Connor told me the boss is coming over for dinner and he said he wants delicious stir fry, and
The
Connor
boss is
said,
coming over for dinner. I got to get that promotion.
and Connor said, but I don't know how to stir fry.
Also, I'm stuck in a 50s sitcom.
Can I tell you something I did a couple of weeks ago, which drove me? I was making noodles,
Dick
right?
Van Dyke Show.
I almost ruined a dinner with stir fry.
I was making noodles and I was missing liquid. I needed some more liquid, and I reached over what I thought was soy sauce. I was going to add another tablespoon or two. It was fucking fish sauce, and I put like
delicious.
2 tablespoons of fish sauce in, and
that might have worked.
No,
it didn't work.
First of all, I can barely handle fish sauce. Like if I can get it in there if it's a little bit, and then it's fine. But if I smell it, I can't take it. So all I could smell was fish sauce in my house for like a day afterwards, and now I can't use it at all ever again. But the point being, like, I've been working on stir fry now for years, and I'm just starting to kind of get it. And
I
it's
almost
tough.
ruined a dinner party that my wife and I had when we lived in like a 1-bedroom apartment with a kitchen that had no real ventilation. Had one of those like microwave fans that just blew it into the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
And I was doing Thai fried rice, and I tossed a handful of sliced Thai bird's eye chili into the hot wok with the oil. And it was like I'd pepper sprayed our entire
vaporize.
Yeah,
that's funny.
I cleared the room. I mean, like people were in the hallway coughing and gagging.
Well, there you go.
Delicious.
Patreon.com/iFanboy. You can be a patron like Justin Ludwig and get your own superpower live on the show. Let's take some audience questions. The first one is from Francisco J. And Francisco, which is a fun name to say, says, we all know that Saga burst onto the scene when it first came out, went away for a while, and then came back. The problem is, I have no idea if it's still back, or if it has been any good since then. I feel like nobody's talking about it. I picked up the first issue when it returned, but life has gotten in the way, and I only buy trades now based on the recommendations of this show. Uh-oh. Am I missing something? Is there a pact amongst the comic book community to not spoil it, a la Walking Dead? And am I just dense, or has it gone away again? Please help solve this mystery. I don't want to solve by just Googling. It's still coming out. It's still
I'm
actively
still reading
being
it
printed.
in issues.
It's
Really?
not. This month is not coming out. It came out in June. The next issue comes out in August. Number 66. It's still coming out.
Well, what I was going to, I'm still reading it in issues. Could not tell you if it's good. Like no issue I've read.
No, I understand.
There've been issues I've read where weeks that are on the show, and I read the issue, and it's usually one of the first issues I read in a week, and never once has an issue done something where I'm like, I know that I'm the only one reading it of the three of us, and there's not been an issue where I'm like, oh, I this is something I should bring up on the show.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead. No,
it lost me. It was gone for so long that when it came back, I had lost the thread. I did not want to do the work. I did not trust it to continue going, and I no longer found myself wanting to invest the time in it. And I also think that by the end of the last couple, I wasn't sure if I was enjoying it anymore.
Yeah.
Which sometimes doesn't matter.
In the beginning, it was like pick of the week, like 5 out of 8 issues. Like it was burst on the scene. We all loved it. And I think at some point in the middle, I got kind of bored with it. and I
Yeah,
switched to
you did
trades
before
when
me.
when they killed off one of the main characters. I switched to trades on it, and I just kind of never went back because I wasn't compelled. And I don't know because I haven't been reading it, but I have been told by several people who are reading it, none of whom was Ryan, that they killed off the wrong main character, because the one that they
Hmm.
killed off was the interesting one, and the one that they kept was kind of awful. But you can't kill the
They
black
killed off
woman and keep the white
Marco.
guy.
Yeah, they killed off Marco and they kept Alana of the parents. Are those the two you're talking
Yes,
about, Connor?
yes.
And honestly, I in the early part of the book, I didn't think Alana was awful, but the way she's been written post Marco's death, yeah, I mean, she before Marco died, she was like dealing with addiction issues and these other things, and I actually thought that was all interesting. But the way they've written her post Marco's death, I agree. Like, she's not a super admirable, likable character, and she's now lacking a foil, a partner to bounce her personality off of. Like, she's just not just she is a single mother raising 2+ ish kids, and it's hard. Like, she's struggling. Like, she's a person who is not getting by easily, and it is not the fun. Not that it was ever like super fun or carefree, but like it's missing an element of the.
It was fun in the beginning.
There was. I heard an interview with John Boyega before he got completely disenfranchised with Star Wars, as we all have, and
Whoa! Speak for yourself.
I am, and as we all have, myself included. And he talked about how, like, when he was going into audition for Star Wars, one of the things he did was just rewatch the original movies, and one of the things that struck him was the characters in Star Wars are constantly being put in situations where they could and very likely will die, but the response is not like, "Oh, woe is me, this sucks, I'm gonna die." Their response is, "Woohoo! Isn't this fun? We might die."
Right.
And I thought that was a really good insight, and I think you see a lot of that in the early parts of his character Finn that is maybe missing from the latter versions of it. And I think Saga had some of that in the early days too, where it's like everything is like we're all in death-defying situations, but boy, isn't it exciting. And now the book has transitioned to like we're in scraping by situations where wouldn't it be great if there was a stronger welfare state to take care of us? And like it's just not as
fun. It's supposed to be fun. This thing's supposed to be fun.
Well, fun.
I don't remember any of it until you just said to me the interesting part about this book was that relationship, those characters. And I understand that when you love something, you have to destroy them and make them. But is it Marco and
Marco?
Yep. Alana.
Yeah, the two of them were a really interesting couple, and their interactions and how they raised that kid was interesting.
Hazel.
You take one of them away. I think I kind of remember this, and I like maybe even I read it when it came back once, and it was maybe that's what it was missing. I don't know. It just I stopped trusting it. I didn't trust that they were going to finish it. I didn't trust that it was going to keep going, that it was going to be worth my time.
It is still going, but
now
I just don't.
And then they're going to take some break at some point, and then it'll be another, however many years. And at some point, they're not going to keep going.
I think we don't have time for this, but I think there's a larger discussion to be had about they're not being a comic zeitgeist anymore. Like where do people talk about these books? It's all so distributed now.
Right here on iFanboy.
Well, right, but we can't be your only stop because there's lots of stuff we don't read, don't have time to read, don't like you're like.
Are you saying we're not everywhere and around?
I don't have. I mean, it's just interesting. There's everything. So the fandom is so distributed that there isn't like a central place where people are like, this book is still incredible.
It's really interesting because social media came along and it was this like message board round table for everybody. And then it got too big and split off. And now we feel more alone and siloed than we were before.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Let's do this next question. JH says, JA, I'm getting married just over 2 months. I'm getting married just over 2 months. Any advice for me on my wedding day? Any stories from your own weddings? P.S. I've been thinking about this question for 30 years, ever since I was old enough to understand what a wedding was. We don't have time to do an hour on this. So what's a quick piece of advice for Jay's wedding day?
The day itself?
Yes, the wedding day. Any advice for me on my wedding day?
By the day of the wedding, the train is on the tracks. hold on for the ride and have fun.
Yeah, it's just a party. You're not going to get to talk to everybody that you want to. It's going to feel like you didn't get a chance to be with, everybody or have like that's going to happen. I don't know anybody who got married is like, oh, I got to spend time and talk to everybody I wanted to. It's going to go real fast. It's just a party. Try to have as much fun as you can. Someone's going to be real stressed out. Someone's mother, for example, and you should not let that affect you. And you should try to see if you can make sure that other people aren't affected by that so that they can also have fun. It is just a one-day party. It doesn't actually mean anything.
And the thing that goes wrong will probably be the best story you get from
That's a good point.
Whole thing.
For example, if a bunch of firefighters show up in your reception room for some reason because they thought that there was somebody pulled an alarm somewhere.
What? When did that happen?
That happened at my wedding.
I know. I was there. When did that happen?
I don't know. It happened at some point. A bunch of firefighters came in, like,
where was I? Is that when we were sneaking
like
up together?
in uniform.
Interesting. I thought it was your
And
relatives.
it wasn't like for long.
Wasn't your
That's
cousins?
actually the first time Josh and I met.
At my wedding?
I was one of the firefighters.
Wow. Why are you suddenly more sexy now?
I thought you were going to yes and me.
So
you didn't do it.
I just did.
He did. True. Mine is sort of is a combination of both. I mean, that's the best piece of advice is just to realize that by the time you get there, it's all happening and there's nothing you can do about it in terms of like, don't worry about things that go wrong. Don't worry about just by the time you get to the day itself, it's happening. So whatever's going to happen is going to happen. Whatever's not going to happen is going to happen. Like that's super minor things. Like all the food didn't come out from mine, but like whatever, who cares? Like, at that point, there's nothing you can do about it. And you shouldn't be worried about it anyway. And you should designate somebody that you trust to be in charge of worrying about stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I think
if you haven't hired like a
planner.
People way overdo it. People again, that's already happened or whatever. I will tell you something that my wife shot. She photographed weddings professionally for about a decade. And she said something to me the other day because like she's over weddings. She's been to enough of them. And I am too. And I've been to like 6. But she was like, what I find tends to happen is that the wedding brings out the worst in everybody around the couple. And like sometimes it's mothers, it's whatever, but like all of the insecurities and the stuff that is going into it for a lot of people who are maybe not necessarily pleasant to begin with, like it makes all those things worse. And you can't let those things affect you. Like it's just this weird. And I was remembering because she was telling me stories all the time, like this happened with this, like a lot of people just, don't put that. Why are we talking about this? This is a comic book show.
No, but this is we all right. I know I'm like
we're gonna end on this,
but the relationship questions are. I love doing relationship questions on the show, and there's also there's the people closest to the couple that have the potential to cause the most damage, but then there are like the people that are tertiary or beyond, like the people who are invited out of obligation or convenience or whatever, who don't give a shit about what the couple is feeling and will like literally unplug the DJ's equipment to play their own music. And
they'll be annoyed that their experience wasn't like it's for the people who are getting married. That's just true.
Yeah.
Don't invite. I mean, my thing was like I really never understood the we have to invite so and so. Fuck it. It's your wedding.
Yeah,
we
didn't
invite anybody.
We didn't invite anyone.
No,
we invited too few people, but I don't remember the firefighters crashing the wedding, Josh. Where was I?
I'm almost sure that really happened. I'll check with my wife, but I'm pretty sure that's really because I think the photographer got one photo of it.
Is that when? Like, was it late? Like, were we off?
Dude, it was a blur. Maybe.
Can I offer one more actual piece of advice?
This is it.
This is it. This is all I have to say.
And this time we mean it.
You're only hurting yourself at this point, Ryan. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. It's a minor thing of presumably I don't know Jay's gender nor the gender of the person that they are marrying, but being asked to give the group best man speech or whatever, however you do your speeches, most people at the wedding don't care about those. And so like to the extent you want to accommodate people who want to give speeches, maybe just ask them to keep it short because
most of them are terrible.
Yeah, most of them are
people
very bad.
People are really bad at expressing themselves. with things that are not
in public with a microphone in their hand.
Yeah, but they're just like, and they say like incredibly boring routine things. But if there's a good one, like it really is awesome.
Yeah. All right, so there you go. Good luck, Jay. Have fun. That's the most important thing. Is have a good time.
I just rewatched Palm Springs.
Have a good time all the time.
And it was great.
Contact at iFanboy.com is how you can write in for this show or the Media Explode show by putting Media Explode the subject line. Thanks everybody who wrote in. Let's quickly plug some shows and get out of here. Speaking of Media Explode, we had a new episode that came out right behind this show just this past week on the feed. We reviewed Oppenheimer and we did the summer mailbag, and that was a super fun time. Hope you enjoyed it. Coming up soon will be Justice League War World, the animated Brain Trust show. We haven't scheduled it yet because I'm about to go on a little vacation, so we'll do that when we get back. But it'll be coming to you pretty soon. And then, depending on the desires and whims of Josh A. Flanagan and friends, maybe there'll be a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles review show that's getting great reviews.
Is it out?
No, but the critics have seen it.
Right.
At least it'll, So anyway, they'll decide whether they do that or not, and possibly Blue Beetle. We'll see. We're not making any promises for either one of those movies. Ryan, science sort of.
Oh man, my job as it currently exists is not allowed much time for that. So I apologize to those of you in the audience who have been looking for more science sort of episodes, but they are recorded, and it's just a matter of editing and post-production that has slowed the train there. But
sounds like a lot of excuses.
I would call them reasons.
Well played.
That was a good yes and. There you go.
Thank you. I have somewhat of a demanding job right now. Its demands, if they don't diminish, will kill me. So doing my best. Science sort of, unfortunately,
Science
a little bit
will
of
return like Saga.
Yes.
How do we expect this climate change issue to get solved if you're not podcasting?
Exactly.
You were the one I was counting on. This is going to be the guy who breaks through. Sort of.
Wow. Nothing like putting more pressure on me to get
if you take that as real pressure, we have other problems.
That's the irony, Josh, is that the shows he's got in the can that he can't put out feature his solutions for the climate change issue.
And they're valid.
And they're valid and they're doable, but he just can't get them out.
He did just tell us. He said if you were to be like, hey, I could you do me a favor and solve climate for me? He'd be like, yeah, okay, I'll get to it. And it would like
if I had Justin's power. I don't have Justin's power.
You just said if Connor needed you to teach you how to.
I don't have Justin's power though.
Right, but in real life, you still want to help people.
Always.
That's what you indicated, right? So I would really appreciate if you could solve this for me.
Well, Connor's got an electric vehicle, so he doesn't need my help.
Yeah. What precious metals did it use up when they made it?
And Josh, I'm trying to get a ski condo with you in the mountains where we can just live out the
It's true. I shot you down. It's a significant drive with my fossil beer burning truck.
Unless you relocate permanently.
I'm not going anywhere south of here. I'll tell you that much right now.
You can find our library of over 1,300 shows and counting over at iFanboy.com and wherever podcasts are sold for money. Follow us at iFanboy Comics on Instagram and find out what the pick of the week is before the show comes out, and sometimes for the best weekend panels. Follow us individually. CS Kilpatrick on Instagram. J. Flanagan, also Instagram. At Halped on an unnamed platform that is dying and I've not posted on for many moons, and at Ryan Haupt on Instagram.
This episode, Ryan, you've had several incredible jokes, and also you've killed several incredible jokes, but that's a good mix, I think.
Was this a good show? Was this a good episode?
Subscribe to youtube.com/iFanboy, and also consider leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever the hell you're listening. I don't know. It's hot.
During the wedding talk, I was like, half the people are like, fuck this. And half the people are like, this is why I'm here.
Listen.
I mean, it was definitely a show.
Someone in the Discord posted 100%. An old episode of ours where we did, for Valentine's Day, we did a whole listener mailbag about relationships. And I think we got to bring that back next February.
Love that.
We got to do a relationship question show again. We used to do those regularly.
Yeah.
They
Well,
were
yeah,
fun.
but we used to have like married guy, single guy, whatever. Now we're
Right.
just old farts.
Right. But it could be fun that way.
But probably, if I'm being honest, so is the audience.
Hey, we're done. Thanks for listening as we all sit here and slowly bake. My name is Connor.
I feel like I'm being slow cooked.
I happen to be pressure cooked Ryan.
Because of the job.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
the type of cooking too, though. That was the joke.
Yeah.
Jeez.